Here we are. What's up, everybody? Corey Singletary here with the Citizens Utility Board, back for another episode of CUB Tracks. Alongside me, as always.
Hey, Tom Content, Citizens Utility Board, welcome.
So you and I were just talking, and it's sort of an in-between times right now, right?
We're like almost done with a year. We're trying to figure out next year, but there's a lot that's kind of in flux still.
There's a lot of stuff that's in flux. The commission this past year signed off on final orders for some parallel generation.
Last week's
rates.
meeting?
Last week's
Yep.
meeting, yep. And they also approved the acquisition of the Darien solar project, right, by, at least in their oral discussion, they approved that acquisition by the WEC Energy Group Utilities and MGE, if I'm remembering correctly, how these are all divvied up. So we'll be seeing that come through. But there were a couple things. I think it was some focus incentives that you wanted to talk about.
I just wanted, because we know we don't know where all the fuel costs are going to land, because we're still waiting on some of those too, the final orders on where all the utilities' fuel costs are going to land. But we know that winter heating costs are going up this winter, and it's the second winter in a row, and from the national estimates, it could be one of the highest in a decade or more. And so I thought it would be good to just remind people that even though it's late in the year, but the coldest of the cold hasn't set in yet, and so Focus on Energy put out a reminder about they're calling it winter comfort, a reminder, and they're reminding folks that, and we want to remind you that incentives are still available if you want to insulate your house. They have different levels of incentives for whether it's attic insulation, foundation insulation, wall insulation, and they have different levels of rebates available if you use a contractor or if you're DIY. So I know you might take advantage of the DIY incentive. I might hire a contractor, but whatever you want to do, there's actually different options available for folks if they head to the Focus website and then click on residential. I wanted to get that out there. And the other thing to remind people of is if you're struggling on your bills and need energy assistance, we just want to make sure there's a lot of energy assistance dollars that are available that people need to apply for. So, because not everybody who's eligible applies for it. And so the link there, and we'll put it in, we'll have links available, but energyandhousing.wi.gov is kind of a first link for energy, utility, and emergency rental assistance.
And the link for Focus on Energy, and the URL for Focus on Energy? It's
focusonenergy.com, and then /residential gets you to a landing page that has all sorts of helpful stuff, but we'll get you to that insulation stuff. So wanted to share that with winter. Some winter weather already hit, but the freezing, the frigid cold, that's really the factor. The big factor, X factor, is how cold will the winter be, and what will that do to market prices of natural gas that utilities, the portion of the natural gas they're buying on the market.
Yeah, I mean, I know that certainly energy efficiency programs and conservation are nothing new in Wisconsin in particular. But with all the big rate changes that we've seen recently, all of the things that are driven by increases in fuel cost,
right.
I think it is a good time to sort of reemphasize for customers that to the extent that they can take control over their own energy future, whether it be through insulation or other measures or programs, sooner is better than later.
Exactly. I mean, CUB can't control the price of natural gas, and even the utilities can't control the price of natural gas that they've been seeing. It did ease up somewhat, it looked like, from some of the high numbers we were seeing in mid-year, but it's still at such a high level compared to where it was a year ago that the warnings are still standing for on the heating cost side.
Yeah, and we'll certainly, we talked about it in a previous episode. We talked about some of the additional incentives that would be available through some of the federal legislation that was passed this past year, some of it related to heat pumps and whatnot.
Exactly.
And as those programs get sort of firmed up and the guidance around those is finalized, we'll make certain to follow up on those for folks.
Yeah, we'll have resources available about those federal initiatives on our website once there's more clarity. 'Cause
Yeah.
we're still waiting and seeing on a bunch of that.
Yeah, it's still working its way through the process. It's a lot of money, so it takes and there's a lot of entities that they have to coordinate with to make it all work. But while we're talking about things like, potential high heating costs for the winter, and trying to be prepared, the other thing that when we get into this time of year that we always try to make certain to remind folks is, Wisconsin has a disconnection moratorium for the heating season. We do not have one for the cooling season. That's sort of a separate conversation. But for the heating moratorium, the disconnection moratorium we have for the heating season, one of the things that sometimes comes up, right, is for folks who do end up in in an unfortunate situation where they're behind on their bill. What we always emphasize is if you can pay anything, do that. If you can arrange a payment plan with your utility, do that. Don't take the moratorium period as a sign or a signal that you should just stop paying your utility bill, because it will come due at the end of the moratorium period. Then you could face disconnection. So the more anything you can do to stay on top of that, whether it's money you have or through assistance programs and whatnot, is definitely, please do that, and don't dig yourself a bigger hole over the winter, by just kind of forgetting about the utility bills.
Right. And the other resource that we should remind people of, if you're struggling but your income is just a hair too big to qualify for energy assistance, or if you're a veteran, there are different special programs available through the Keep Wisconsin Warm Fund. So shout out to them as another opportunity that people who are struggling can seek out to get help.
Yeah. I think it'll probably, by the time we get all of the orders out, it'll probably be more around Christmas. But one of the things that we'll do, and we'll cover in a future episode, is we'll try to run down all of the different moving parts on all the rate increases that the commission, rate adjustments the commission has addressed and approved for 2023. That includes rate cases, fuel cost issues, things of that nature, just so customers can kind of get a feeling for what they might need to budget for the calendar year 2023, because it's going to be more.
Because this is it's not the onesie twosie kinds of increases that we've seen in prior years. These are real dollars this time around for a lot of folks.
Mm-hmm. And then the other thing I think maybe we could just mention, because or two things really, but it's a similar theme, is the commission had a performance-based regulation workshop last week, Tuesday.
Yep.
And then the Clean Economy Coalition, is it Coalition for a Clean Economy? Is that what
Clean Economy Coalition in Wisconsin,
Wisconsin had a 2-day meeting on Thursday and Friday of last week. And the big thing that was a takeaway for me that I think stood out and I think is worth highlighting is that both meetings, while covering arguably different topics, had a lot of participation from actual customers, in particular customers or folks who work with Wisconsin utility customers that fall into that sort of low to moderate income bracket. Some experience, that's sort of their own lived experience, and some, that's what they do. They work with organizations like Walnut Way, Conservation Corporation to help folks who need assistance in a variety of areas in terms of their own personal economics, we'll call it. But I think that participation from that sort of ground up participation is really something that I'm heartened to see. The first decade basically working in this industry, there wasn't a lot. Every once in a while you'd get a big rate case where you'd get 200 to 300 public comments filed online or people showing up. But it's really great that people are starting to recognize that this industry and everything it touches is really important, and it's just as important as all the big flashy things like politics that they should really make certain they get involved if they can.
Yeah, energy democracy is a participatory sport, right?
It is.
And to see over 1,700 public comments across the 2 rate cases this year, and to see participation like that, to really not just to really hear the voices of people who were impacted by all these decisions is really heartening and hope signs of better processes and better outcomes, hopefully going forward.
I hear Rich over here slamming doors and stuff, man.
That's hey, you can never predict the timing on these things. We do it when we do it.
Yeah. No, yeah, you're right. It is something that participation is sorely needed. And I think I've mentioned it before, and that our role is to, be the technical consumer advocate in this sort of economic regulation field. So we handle a lot more of the sort of technical issues in terms of, not issues, but technical aspects in terms of testimony, expert witness testimony, and fleshing out those technical and legal arguments before the commission, the stuff that they actually need to be able to make their decision. But equally as important is, they really need to be able to, the commissioners really need to hear the stories from the ratepayers, from the customers themselves, and at least from my perspective, those stories are the customers to tell, not ours. So that public participation, that energy democracy is critical, and I hope that as we move into 2023, that people continue with that, because we know that we're going to be pretty busy next year, right?
Well, we've got some cases coming up next year.
We do. So folks who may not be aware, this is all subject to things actually happening, but as it sits right now, the expectation is that if you are a customer of Madison Gas and Electric, Xcel Energy, and Alliant Energy, that those 3 utilities will be filing. We'll be seeking some sort of rate adjustment from the commission, and they'll be filing that application sometime in spring. And also, the WEC Energy Group, WC Energy Group utilities also are going to be coming in for a partial rate case. So there will be no shortage of things going on, and basically if you're a utility customer of one of the large 5 investor-owned utilities, stay tuned, because stuff's coming your way.
That's right. I think, and we'd put out a lot of materials to our members and to the public about what was going on with the WEC utilities, and then I got an email from an Xcel customer saying, "Doesn't CUB ever look at what Xcel's up to?" And the answer is yes. That's what I told him. The answer is yes. It's just that their time was not now. So, but they're probably coming in around the corner. So, So we hope that in 2023 there will be as much participation from the ground up from customers across the state in these cases, because you get better decisions when there's more participation and more perspectives that are heard.
Cool. Well, so yeah, we'll be on the lookout for sort of end of year wrap ups on a couple of issues. Really, three big issues I can think of, right? So if you have an interest in what's going to be happening to your utility bills, starting really January 1 of 2023, be on the lookout of that, because we'll do a wrap up on all the rate cases and fuel cases for all the big utilities in Wisconsin, as soon as we get all of those orders in our hot little hands, and then. Another one is if you are, this is probably more geared towards, say, small business customers, but potentially some residential customers, is also the commission will be issuing its orders for the parallel generation dockets that it had this year. And we'll see what's going on with that. So if you are interested in, slightly larger, rooftop solar projects or battery electric or maybe even wind, that'll be something that we'll do a recap on, again, once the commission issues its final decisions on that. And then, the last one that admittedly just escaped my mind. Oh, no.
Third party?
The last one is third party
solar.
Third party solar. So again, if you're interested in things like rooftop solar and you're wondering kind of what your options are there, we're anticipating probably before the end of the year we'll kind of know what the commission's mind is on that issue.
Yeah, it kind of have to see how both decisions play out before we can get a sense on that issue. So we're looking for that.
Cool.
All right.
All right, folks. So, make certain to like and subscribe, rate us on your favorite podcast platform, and otherwise, we'll catch everyone in the next one.
Catch you next time.
Thanks.